Hey, Sarah.
Hey!
Hey, Sarah, what did you read this month?
So I read Turtles All the Way Down. I'm still working out what that phrase even means, but I think I got it.
So tell me about your book. What was, I think I actually read John Green's Turtle All the Way Down a few years back, but it's been a while. You might have to refresh me.
I think, okay, I don't know if it's my favorite John Green book, but it ranks for sure. It is about a girl who is struggling with OCD, but it also has a side plot. Well, it starts out as the main plot, but then it turns into the side plot where she reunites with an old friend. They kind of have a fling, and they're trying to figure out what happened to his millionaire dad who disappeared.
All right,
So,
go ahead.
Okay, excuse you.
Hey!
Put
We're
down!
filming over here.
Oh, we can do Rocky.
Dun, 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 dun.
So millionaire dad disappears and they have their little fling. What I actually liked about, as far as like the plottier plot goes,
The plot.
the non-OCD aspect of the plot, I like that John Green didn't have them stay together, because usually he puts people together.
Oh, the two main characters, yes.
Yeah,
That is a common theme.
that is his MO normally, but it wasn't this time, and I like that because it kind of showed that the girl didn't need someone else to work through her struggle. She could kind of get through it on her own, which I appreciated.
So I want to ask you, based on this book,
Yes.
what was your other favorite John Green book? Because I know I like Looking for Alaska.
Looking for Alaska,
Looking for Alaska was one that really got me. Turtle All the Way Down, I read it, but it wasn't a favorite. So it's kind of nice to hear.
Looking
from
for
you now.
Alaska was probably my favorite. I threw that book across the room when I got to the part.
So did I.
And I was like, no, and threw it. Turtles All the Way Down I like because it doesn't, I don't think that it really has much of a plot. It's mostly just people talking and this girl dealing with OCD. But getting onto the OCD part, as someone who has OCD, I really liked how John Green handled it, and he has OCD too. So he handled it like a pro.
realistic
It was very
description.
realistic. And her intrusive thoughts start out somewhat bad in the beginning, but then it gets worse and worse. And she finally ends up in the hospital for it, where she actually starts to get help and to work through her issues. But I really liked how realistic it was. So picking back up, one thing I really liked about this book was that it shows that OCD isn't all just straightening things and cleanliness. It shows that it can be, like this girl kept opening up like a wound on her thumb, and because it was kind of the cleanliness thing, but not like Monk, where it's like, oh, I gotta have everything just so, and I have to clean everything. It wasn't like that, and I really appreciated that, because most people misunderstand OCD and they think it's just like straightening things, and that's not how it is. It's more like the need to control your environment.
I have OCD too, and so I do the cleanliness thing often. But you're right, it's definitely much more of like, I need to control my environment. I'm safe if I do this.
Yeah, and the safe if I do this thing was definitely how it was for her. Like, she had gotten to the point of even like eating hand sanitizer. Like,
Oh, Lord.
she wasn't doing good. But she starts to figure out, she kind of avoided like taking medication and avoided being entirely truthful with her counselor, but she gets to the point where after her big break, she's able to get to the point of being honest with herself and her counselor. And I like that John Green didn't make the focus the relationship between her and her old friend that she met back up with.
Like he does in all the other books.
Like he does in all his other books, and instead he made it about her finding stability for herself.
So this is a break, or maybe break's not the right word, but a break from the other themes that John Green mostly likes to write about.
He likes to write, and I saw this on Goodreads and I thought it was funny, but he loves to write about disappearing people. Like, someone's always disappearing, and there's a mystery, and the plot does loop her back around and pick that plot up again, but for the most part, that's not what the book was about. The book was about this girl and her struggles, but also her developing as a person. So it's more of a character study and also a study of just OCD in general and how it affects real people. Yes.
Okay.
On your mark.
Hold on, I'm leaving my key. Ready, go! Oh, I'm so dizzy though. Woo! Oh, are you so dizzy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, Sarah, you got anything else to say about your book?
Yeah, my last thing is that I liked that her issues surrounding her OCD weren't actually resolved, because that's very true to life. It doesn't ever completely go away, like for most people, and I guess John Green knows that from experience, but I like that it wasn't just neatly resolved, and it's just there's a focus on her getting better, but not on completely just being cured.
So I
thought that
have
was
one
really-
question for you before I tell you about my great book this month.
Okay.
Do you think it was a happy ending? Without giving anything away, we don't want to leave a spoiler.
I think so. Like I said, everything wasn't like neatly tied up with a bow or whatever, but you see her getting on the path to recovery. So I felt like that was a happy ending for her.
That's happy enough, right?
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Still ready to talk about Taylor's book? Because I read it too.
Okay. Like, I'm just a little out of breath. No big deal.
I'm
So big, you
sorry.
guys. This month I read Obsession by Allison Britz. And actually, you read it too.
Yep.
I know I got about halfway through it before I was telling you about it, and I don't know if you had as hard of a time reading that first half as I did, but let me tell you about the book first, guys. So this book is called Obsession. It is too about OCD. It doesn't have a plot like Turtles All the Way Down did. However, it's more of a character study. It starts out with this girl, she's a sophomore in school, and it does give you some backstory saying she was voted Miss Intelligent in 8th grade, and she's a straight A student. She's 10 out of, I think she says, 332 kids. And then one day she has this terrible nightmare. I mean, an awful, awful nightmare. The way she describes it in the book gave me anxiety. But she has a dream that she has brain cancer and that it's getting worse. She has tumors in her head. It's so real, she wakes up and is in a panic attack. And from there, the book keeps going on and you just watch her spiral down into her OCD. Like, totally falls into it. And it took everything in me to keep reading this book, mainly because I found it very triggering for myself. I had a lot of panic attacks in high school over things as well, so I could relate to her. But as she started really spiraling, I found it really hard. I don't know if you had as much trouble as I did.
So
but
did you feel like it was realistic as far as how she showed OCD?
I do feel like it was realistic, and like in Turtles All the Way Down, it wasn't the cleanliness, it wasn't the organization, because she was already that way as a straight A student, and instead it was a total 180. She wasn't brushing her teeth, she wasn't brushing her hair, her blow dryer caused cancer, her clothes caused cancer. It gets to the point where she's in kitty cat pajamas and Christmas pajamas going to school because nothing is right. So it kind of shows you a different side of OCD. She also does the picking at her fingers to where at some
I
point
noticed that.
she has pus coming from her fingers and her mom has to bandage them. You actually gave me hope since you had hopped a little bit in front of me by the time I was about halfway through, when you told me she does get help.
It took her a while, but she got there.
Oh, that was the game changer for me. I feel like about halfway through the book, I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can't say that it does have a exactly neat, tied in a bow ending either. But she definitely does get help, and you can see in the last half of the book her change, like a 180 change. I mean, she knows she's gonna have to deal with OCD forever. By the end of the book, I think she's going to the doctor, her therapist, twice a week. So you can see that it's not like it wrapped up and she's all the way better. OCD is something you gotta live with.
I felt like it went more in depth in that book with exactly how to treat OCD with like exposures
yes.
and stuff. Because like John Green didn't really go into that, but that is like how you would really treat OCD. And I like that that was shown in the book.
I did too, and being a memoir, it's all her real life events. This is all real things that happened to her. And she does, in the author's notes at the back, talk about how she's still dealing with it now, that she's a grown-up, she still has things, but that exposure therapy helped her learn to cope and change and manipulate her way to be able to live a normal life. I really did like that part of it too. I like that they used the right vocabulary.
Yeah, it was, everything was clinical, like all the vocabulary that was used.
Well, there was things that I had to Google to make sure like I knew exactly what it was, especially when they started using the term ERP, which is the exposure therapy. But I didn't know that was an actual term. I had to Google it and get my research about it. But I really, now that I have finished, I will say it was a journey to get through the book.
It was so hard to read about this girl's life because she was in so much pain.
It was a bad book, because I think this was an important book. I think it was a necessary book. I think this topic goes overlooked sometimes because, again, we think OCD is everybody organizing and cleaning and washing their hands 15 million times a day, but it can be so many other things. I know one of her quirks that she starts out with is stepping on cracks.
Yeah.
She says that causes brain cancer. And she talks to herself in a way that she's like arguing the logic, which I found was really realistic, because you know, I mean, it's not that anybody with OCD just thinks that they are right. They know that these thoughts are intrusive most of the time. And that's what she kind of knew, like, okay, this can't be my last set of clothes. This can't be all that I wear, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, she starts trying to fight back with the OCD, but as she kind of figures out, it can just, you have to be careful when you do that because it can just make it stronger.
Yes.
So we talked about this a little bit, but how likable did you find this character?
This is something I dealt with, like, reading it. I kept thinking, I don't like her, I don't like her. But I had to like rethink about it because I also was a teenager with OCD. I had panic attacks at school. So I had to like relate it to myself. Like, I probably wasn't the most likable person in the midst of a panic attack. And this book's over the course of a semester. She's dealing with a lot. So, I mean,
and she's only a sophomore.
She's only a sophomore, okay? She's 15 years old. So no, I didn't really like her. Now, you could tell when she went to therapy, she became much more likable.
Yeah.
But you could tell she wanted the help. Whereas at the beginning, I feel like she was, like I said, kind of blocking everybody off, didn't want the help, didn't want people to see into her life. So it was like half the time I didn't like her and half the time I did like her.
I kind of like that she wasn't just a likable character because
she was very dynamic.
She was dynamic, and mental illness is ugly. Like, you're not gonna be likable when you're in the middle of a struggle as much as she was going through.
Right.
So today we're at Eleanor Tinsley Park, home of formerly known as Summerfest, but
Kenny Rogers lives over there.
Kenny Rogers used to live across the street, just so you know. But if you're in the Houston area or in Harris County and you just want to come have a nice day at the park, this is definitely the place for you.
And don't forget, you can bring a book anywhere with you. You can have it on your tablet. You can go get a physical copy from one of your local library branches. But there's no shelf required.
Bye, Harris County.